And I always have a cup of coffee this time of evening, so forgive me, I didn't get that coffee. I'm be like,
Well,
whatever.
go ahead.
No, I can't, they don't have a Keurig for me around here. We don't have to get a Keurig or something, but I'm good.
Okay.
I know no one over here drinks coffee except me.
I don't think
That's what it is. It's all good. It's all good. I don't have anything to write notes with, so that'd be very helpful. And I just called my son and told him don't be calling me on the meeting.
Yeah, he's giving you that.
Mr. Chambers, I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good. I don't like to take out that like that. Thank you. That works. I'm good. Thank you. Okay. So who wants to lead this conversation? Let me lead off by saying thank you so very much for adjusting and you know, like I said, I guess people tend to forget, you know, I'm in a public school setting too, and they don't care about me being a board member, they want me to be there. So I appreciate you reconsidering, you know, and understanding why the time was set the way it was. So thank you for, you know, stretching like that. I appreciate it. Okay.
You're welcome.
So ever since your employment here was covered, and ever since all that occurred, there's been a great deal of differing opinions, just a whole lot of things said, a whole lot of things written, a whole lot of things. There's a whole lot of things. Formal grievances, to formal lawsuits, to things just on social media, to all those things. And initially, I really wanted to sit down. I've known this guy, and so much so that I asked you to participate on committees and important decision-making processes in this district. Encouraged our HR department to let you interview and teach in our school district. But the reason that never happened was because of all the formal issues that began taking place after your employment was severed with our district. So it's been bothering me for a long time about the lack of just sitting down and talking, but I've been advised to let all that, from the litigation to the grievances, to all the formal things that were in place. I've been advised not by the board, by the council, just let those processes play out, and at some point it's different. So I kind of did that, and both of us did that. And you would come to board meetings, and you would sit and record, and every once, very rarely would you say much. You kind of listen and take notes, which is fine. But then when you finally began addressing the board during the feature presentation, you asked for, where's your voice been, or do you have an opportunity to talk? And I felt, okay, well, now the litigation is out of the way. You have formally made a request to do it. So I just literally leaned over to Ms. Williams and said, I think we ought to consider just having you come in and have a conversation, not a part of a formal response to a grievance, not a part of a formal anything, a conversation. So that's what and she agreed. And so that was the purpose of me want to sit down and hear you out. I don't want to do the talking here. I'm glad to answer any questions I'm able to answer, but there's nothing healthy about the relationship now. You got, as you alluded to many times, you're a taxpayer in this district. You have children that are being educated in this district. You're a resident of this district, which gives you the same rights and privileges as any other citizen of this district, or parent in this district. But I just, not as a superintendent, just as a person, I felt compelled that there's something that can be done. Is there a question that hasn't been answered or something?
So my conversation
So that's
with
my point.
Mr. Barone would be, where do we go from here? Because, which I kind of agree with what Mr. Chambers is saying. Being advised to walk through the processes is just what board members do, walking through the processes. And I thought that once those processes clear, because I will tell you honestly, it's not like people were not curious or didn't want to hear you, but it is how do we go about having a conversation with you that's not a part of that same process, a formal process was going on. So at this point, where do we go from here is the question in my mind, what happens next? I know that you've made a few statements about what it is that suggestions or recommendations of what it is that we should be doing. So this is an opportunity to talk more about that, and I'll be very honest, I know that this is not a closed discussion. I know that at some point it's going to come up again, so I might as well know what it is that's going to be said here and the now. And as I told you, I'm a grown up. I've been at this for a while, so I take the hit however I have to take the hit. Is there anything that you would like to
And first of all, thank y'all both for meeting with me. Long overdue. I feel like many of my concerns or issues or frustrations could have been settled just like this a long time ago. That's, in essence, all I was asking for, is to be heard like any other taxpayer, like any other parent. The same way that you would expect if you went out to Katie and visited your daughter in her district. Those are the things that I expect. The same thing with your son. I'm not asking for anything other than what you all would have done in similar situations, period. I haven't gone above and beyond asking what y'all have in writing, policies and procedures. If you don't agree to the policies and procedures, change them. That's all I'm saying. You stated that this all occurred since my employment was discontinued with Alief, and that is far from the truth. It actually started while I was employed with the district. That's why I went on medical leave. It clearly states in my medical leave documentation from my nurse that I was being retaliated against, that I was being harassed at my school by my principal and assistant principal. Clearly states that. That was not after the fact. The district began retaliating after that, and then you all doubled down on the retaliation when the incident happened at my home, because you thought it was a slam dunk. We got him. We're going to publicly embarrass him. We're going to publicly embarrass his family. And just like I told you with Assistant Superintendent Elizabeth Veloz-Powell, I'm not worried about those charges because I know I hadn't done anything. The problem arises where policies and procedures were not implemented. Had they contacted my attorney, which Elizabeth Veloz-Powell clearly stated on the record that had not been done, many of this could have been alleviated. But the problem is that y'all were so gung-ho on retaliating against me, behind falsifying special ed grades, behind me going on medical leave, behind me standing up for myself and the district and the children, behind the principal at Mahaney, that you reverted to using professional and personal privileges to attack me. That's the reason why the Channel 13 news story came out. Nobody else has been on Channel 13 news but Damon Barone. So in essence, y'all fired me publicly on Channel 13 news before you even concluded the investigation. The reason why I had to file the lawsuit is because I was not getting talked to or listened to during the formal grievances, during the informal grievances. Flat out, y'all haven't been doing what you say you're going to do. So I had no choice. I don't have a law degree. But the evidence itself allowed me to fight you all damn near 2 years as my own attorney. And frankly, to be honest, the only reason the case got dismissed is because you filed a foolish motion and I had finals. And I chose to focus on my finals as opposed to respond to the motion. That's the only reason the charge got dismissed. Let me say that again. I chose to work on my finals. The issue didn't go away. The documentations don't change. This should have happened up front. It didn't happen. That's when it became personal. When y'all wouldn't let me see my daughter, I sat in that other room, HD, and begged you and cried. Just like we sitting here now, I shed tears behind the fact of not being able to pick up my daughter. All that other stuff didn't matter to me. I didn't care about y'all embarrassing me on the news. I didn't care about y'all putting things on the internet about me. I didn't care about y'all falsely terminating me. I didn't care about none of that. I wanted to pick up my daughter like everybody else. And that's when the switch changed. When you continue to impede upon my parental rights, I will fight you tooth and nail behind my children and my family, just like you would. Just like you would. I would expect you to do the same. My emails are being blocked, but y'all can send me emails. My U.S. postage mail is being blocked, but y'all can send me mail. I received a personal letter from you to my home address. What kind of foolishness is that? I received a personal letter from Darlene Bro to my home address, but I can't send letters to the district? That doesn't make sense. That's retaliation.
So what makes you think that you can't send letters to the district? Every package that you send me, I have.
I'm glad you asked. Here you go right here. Return to sender. Return to sender, undeliverable. There's your letter to me. And just for the record, I'm smart. This ain't my first rodeo. I went through a horrible custody battle and divorce, so I know games. I know placating. This right here, this U.S. postage stamp, comes from KBS. Yeah. Each postage stamp, when you send a letter through a postage, it has an identifiable number. This came from KBS. That means y'all were trying to legally do some foolishness with me and represent it as if it was personal from you and Darlene's. Lawyers were involved. Y'all were the law firm that Eric Nichols and
okay, I'm sorry.
yeah. So I'll keep going. Undeliverable. Barracuda. You all sending me posters. Same address that I'm sending to, but undeliverable. Undeliverable. That's a violation of my rights.
I don't even know how any of it could be undeliverable, Mr. Barone. I'll bring you the big box of documents that I have received from you. So it's not like I haven't seen those packages that you send me.
You haven't received all of them, obviously, because I have returned sender right there. And then
I don't know what those are, but the large ones that you sent, and I've shared with Mr. Chambers, I have them. You know, so I don't know what's going on with these, that they didn't get delivered to me. I don't.
You can have that. And then also, too, when my mail was getting delivered, my emails was getting blocked, my phone calls was being avoided, my U.S. mail was being undelivered or unaccepted when I tried to drop them off, hand delivered, right, and get a receipt. Mr. Chambers stood in the way of that as well. So it has been intentional to prevent me from communicating with the district, with those powers who are decision makers. It has been prevented from me to voice my concerns, to file grievances properly, to have timely responses as such. I mean, I could go on and on. So I take exception to alluding to that this happened since my employment was no longer with the district. It happened way before then. When I reported that the principal and the assistant principal was forcing us to work the carnival, the fall festival violation. And frankly, what happened, and I'm glad you brought it up on all the committees that I've sat on, what frankly has happened is that I've been more knowledgeable than the individuals that have been above me, and so I knew right and wrong while working at Mahaney, and that's where it becomes a liability because I've always known rights. I was receiving first-hand information. The committees that I've been on is the reason why I chose to become an educator in the district, because I wanted to do more to give back to the community kids. It was never about me. You remember initially I was going to run for the school board president. I mean, it's not school board president, it's school board. And then you said that I couldn't be a teacher and run for the school board at the same time. So I pivoted. I said I want to be influential in the district on a level where the children are impacted. So I became an educator as opposed to fulfilling my desires to be a school board member.
When did you come to the district, Mr. Barone? When did you start your employment with the district?
2013. My volunteerism in committees began in 2011.
You were on the first leadership network?
Correct.
Right, which that was right after you came, because 2011 was when my last was granted.
Okay, I got your next point. You started on that fall. Let me just clarify real quick that when I said a lot of it started after the separation of employment, I didn't imply that. I said that was when I started.
The communication changed as a result of that. You guys probably
The communication changed when
they said you could not see your daughter.
Not then, but when I finally got a chance to speak to Superintendent Chambers, and they still continued to not allow me to see my daughter. That's when the light switched. I go back and ask Ms. Powell for the audio recordings of the meetings. I was still amicable through those meetings where they were trying to infringe upon my parental rights. I knew it was wrong, but for the sake of getting along, like they say, for the betterment of the children, I was willing to comply with something that I knew was illegal and they were overstepping their boundaries. But when I cried to you in that room, HD, and then you came out here and kneeled down to my daughter and told her that she got a good father, but then turned around and still continued to prevent me from picking her up, from going to her choir practice, from picking her up from choir practice, from going to her recital. I'll never get that time back, HD. She'll never go to third grade again. She'll never go to fourth grade again. She'll never have third grade choir again. She'll never have end of the year recitals at third and fourth grade. I missed that time. I don't get that back. That's why I'm passionate. I don't get that time back. All for nothing. Since day one, I said I'm not worried about whatever it is. You got Henry Bonaparte going into Harris County District's website and pulling down information and putting them in you all's bogus investigation and using that against me. You got Eric Nichols calling over there to the DA's office and interfering with the case and asking about it. Quite frankly, I'm going to be honest, I think that's probably why it took so long to get dismissed, because he was involved in saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I'd rather go to jail for something that I didn't do than plead guilty to anything that I know I didn't do. They continue to offer me plea deals. I'm not pleading to anything. If you want me to drink water, I don't drink water. If you want me to chew bubble gum, I don't chew bubble gum, because I know I didn't do anything. So I'd rather, and more importantly, if I plead to anything, I can't dispute that. I can't go back and appeal that.
So help me out here, because I'm methodical. So the information that you're talking about is when the information came forth about whatever was going on personally.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that you were trying to wait out the time for all of that to get dismissed.
No, what I'm saying is I was hoping that the district would do a proper and thorough investigation and find out themselves that the situation was not what it appeared to be. But, and had they done that, then many of these situations would not have happened. But instead, the district was in retaliatory mode, and so they tried to dictate the narrative of the circumstances, as opposed to, one, contacting my attorney, as I instructed and asked them to do several times, two, as opposed to interfering with the process by using personal and professional privileges to gain information that was not valid, by not communicating with me, by not responding to me, and more importantly, just not doing the things that's in the policies and procedures, in the mission statement, in the vision statement, and the goals or objectives. That's it. None of what y'all have done so far line up with the mission, vision, objection, or any of that. That's my concern. Had they lined up with any of that, we wouldn't even be sitting here right now. would not be sitting here right now. And as a taxpayer and as a parent, as an alumni of the district, I mean, my passion for the district and my behavior and all of that is as simple as going to pull my records. I've been here since 3rd grade. You can go and see I've never been written up. I've never been in detention. I've never been inside. You all have access to those records.
Mr. Barone, here's where I kind of sit as a board member, and this is no disrespect. I think that I know you go through great lengths to get educated. What you don't know, you figure it out. The only thing that I would say at this table, and I say this, Mr. Chambers, you hardly ever hear me talk this way, but I'm just going to talk like I talk to my constituents in the community. There's a lot of processes and things that people think that the board should be able to act upon. But you ought to know by now, through all your walk through TEA, our hands are held to what we can and cannot do. So as far as for what happened at the campus, until that became a level 3 grievance, board had no clue or idea about any of that.
And that was strategic. And then,
No.
and then the information that you received.
You're saying strategic. I'm saying that it's unfortunate the policies are written to that point. A lot of things we're not going to know. Now, some people may find out along the way. They may have someone that tells them that. But at the end of the day, we still have to act within the guides of a board member. So as far as for all of those entities that happened, let me tell you, I didn't know anything that was going on until it came to the board based upon a renewal or non-renewal. So I don't know what date and time that happened. But the conversation was...
It was in November.
The conversation was... I think it was a waiting to find out if you're going to resign and work out the issue with the charges being dismissed. Were you going to resign or do those things? So the conversation, we was waiting as a board to either do a non-renew, if in case you did not. But at the last minute, and I remember, I think we were doing Teacher of the Year or summer graduation or something. Something was going on, but at that moment that would happen, I remember being at Taylor for an event and got the information or news that you decided to resign.
And I decided, again, and that's a big part of the problem as well, is that the story has only been told from one side. Never once has both sides of the stories been able to be told to the board, to you, or anybody else. It's been coming from HD Chambers and everybody else. I've been excluded from the conversations, and that's where the real problem lies.
Well, and I need you to help us to fix that, Mr. Barone, because then that also becomes Open Meetings Act issues that goes on.
Well, I'd rather have Open Meetings Act than violations of rights. I mean, either way it goes, you're going to get caught up. Something has to be done. Having one-sided narratives is going to get y'all caught up. Open Meetings Act is going to get y'all caught up.
I totally agree with you, and that's just the way that process, whatever the state decides to put into place for board members, that's the way it goes. Now, there's a presumption here that we sit back and we talk about all of these things, but we don't. And I would prefer that it would stay in the lines of the legal realms. But information that I received, I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you, because you're right. There has not been a moment, and unfortunately the system is not set up where we can sit down and have a roundtable discussion and hash it out, and then we make a deal and call it quits. The thing of it is, that information I'm sharing with you where the board comes in. And I'm talking because all of that happened not with this current board, but with the previous board. The information was that to decide on whether or not you would be non-renewed. At the last minute, we got the word that you decided to resign. I didn't hear anything else, and then after that, then all of the other things, occurrences and things happened.
Because I revoked the illegal waiver. I did it in a timely manner, as according to what was in the written document, and then that's when my communications began to be blocked. I have all the documentation to show that I revoked the illegal waiver in the manner in which it states in the documentation. More importantly, I also know, because of my legal understanding, is that when you settle with someone, you don't take taxes out. Y'all basically paid me my salary, a portion of my salary, and took taxes out. That's not a settlement. That's a paycheck. And so by preventing me from, or allegedly preventing me from responding to the illegal waiver and then also taking my taxes out, that changed the whole dynamic. Now I'm telling you, hey, one, I don't agree to this waiver. It says 24 days from the date that it was signed, 7 days from something else, or 10 days. I did all that. I contacted HD. I contacted you. I contacted EEOC. I contacted TEA. I contacted Mr. Nichols and his law firm. I have all the documentation to show that via email, via fax, via certified mail. So that's where the issue goes about, is that got caught with your hand in a cookie jar. Now you want to continue to play upon the same play that perpetuated the situation, because you've had a one-sided narrative of everything since day one until now. They've been allowed to do what they want to do. That's why it's so important to not allow me to communicate with anyone, to block my emails, to block my conversations, to block my U.S. postage stamp, because the evidence lies in getting the other side of the story. Period.
Okay, so even in receiving the other side of the story, the point is the board can hear the other side of the story in the framework in which the state has set the board to do it in. But we missed that opportunity. This whole thing about
why did you miss that opportunity? Because y'all refused to hear.
No, it is not. It is not, because of the realms in which grievances and hearings go. That's how it was missed. It wasn't missed because it was an intentional part or something on our part that we make a decision. The only decision that the board could do is to work within the framework in which the state requires us to do.
So what is the framework to investigate the things that I've been saying since day one to get it taken care of? Because as it stands now, there's still issues.
Investigate what? Investigate
the illegal waiver, the manner in which. That's the reason why I had.
What illegal waiver?
You talking about the agreement?
Yes.
Okay. I think the signed agreement.
And if you need proof and verification that I revoked that in a timely manner, I have those documents as well. It's also in the Harris County lawsuit as exhibits.
Which that is something in which the board cannot take upon itself to act upon.
But you can right the wrongs. There's no entity in which a person makes a mistake or entity makes a mistake that they can't right their wrongs. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that at all.
I would not disagree to that either. I think that anything is possible if we do it in the right manner. And
the right manner consists of getting both sides of the story and then making a decision from there. That's all I'm asking. If you.
So help me out here, okay? Because I don't want to do anything but get to the root of all of those other things. As I've heard everything said, I think it's spaghetti code. I don't know what spaghetti code is. Okay, that's an IT term for the code has been written so many times that you can't figure out how to make the system work now. Okay? So I want to get beyond that, because I can't thread through what happened. Okay? I can't. But what I can do at this table right now is to figure out what is it that we can do from this moment. And trust me, the board is going to know we had this conversation, and they're going to ask me. That's why I'm taking these notes. For no other reason than I can be very, very clear of everything, of a timeline that you talked about, of the things that got us here, even the statement that you're saying, no, it wasn't the issue. Because somewhere the issue was about the legal situation that happened.
Yeah, it was way before then.
And whether or not your termination was based upon that. Because the board can't know or get involved in all of those other things unless it comes up as a level 3 grievance. And
no, they were.
But I don't
all of those I bet you don't. No. All of those issues are documented as grievances. That's why the union got involved, and I feel like the union is, for lack of better words, in bed with the district as well. That's why they were no help at all.
So what happened? The level 3 grievance, anytime it gets to the level 3 grievance, and you sit here in this boardroom and you've seen people come for the level 3
I wasn't allowed to come into that thing too. I wasn't allowed to come to board meetings. I was specifically told that I could not come to board meetings. And that's why I didn't come.
Who told you?
Veloz-Powell told me.
You couldn't come to a board?
Yeah, and then I told, when we sat here and had that illegal waiver conversation, I told you I wanted to talk to the board, and you were like, no.
Well, you couldn't talk to the board in the manner at that time in which you wanted to talk.
Okay, well, that's nice of you to try to clean it up now, but you specifically told me that I couldn't talk to the board, and you also told me that Eric Nichols, you said legal counsel, you said general counsel was the one who dictated the terms on the contract, and I wanted to talk to him because I didn't agree with it, and you was like, he's not going to talk to you. That's not your decision to make. So all of those impeded my ability to go through a process fairly and exponentially. I was told flat out I couldn't talk to the board, couldn't talk to the general counsel. So you're making the decision for the district. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that. Just like if you call my house and my daughter answers the phone, you say, let me speak to Mr. Barone, and she says, I'm not going to let you talk to him. But he's sitting right there. That's not equitable, is it? It's not.
However, it doesn't work that way in the system.
That's how it worked. That's how it happened. Whether it works that way or not, that's how it happened.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So I'm glad you acknowledge that.
And what I'm saying is, what I'm acknowledging is, go ahead and pull the policies on how the board communicates when a grievance is in motion.
I'm thoroughly
That's what I thought. Right. But I go back to what I said. As a board member, yes, those processes are in motion. Don't ever think that the board did not have a desire to talk to you. But we could not talk to you as long as it's no different than people asking you what's going on with the case.
all you had to do is hear it, but y'all don't listen to cases. Y'all uphold the level 2 grievance flat out across. That's just what y'all do. Y'all have not listened to a level 3 grievance until the Mr. Green case came out. That was the only time that y'all have ever listened to a grievance. Before then, is y'all vote unanimously to uphold the level 2. That's not equitable.
I guess the only analogy I can give for those types of situations, particularly through the grievance situation, is there are extremely strict rules of law, almost to the extent, I don't know if you've ever served on a jury. I was a jury foreman once, and the rules we were given as a jury and what we could actually consider that was said in trial versus what was struck, all these things, there is such a very limited, by state law, limited scope of information that can be given to a board, and then obviously their counsel is going to advise them as to, from a legal perspective, which is what Mr. Nichols' responsibility is to do.
Mr. Nichols is the attorney for the district, not for the board.
Well, when it comes down to it, he represents the school.
And that's a conflict of interest as well, because he's representing the offense and the defense of the district, and that's a conflict of interest.
Well, that's the way the structure is set up.
That's a conflict of interest, HD.
By your definition.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just telling you there's two sides to a lot of the things that you're talking about.
And even
and
so, yeah, and I get your point. I get your point as well. And I heard you. I heard you say that twice. So, but here's the thing, though. Whether it be him or anyone, when you have legal counsel of the district, and the board does not have his counsel, we do rely upon the legal counsel of the district.
And that's a conflict of interest.
And that legal counsel is the one that provides the guidance. Because, when it comes down to our policies and things that have to be updated and reworked, that's what we're going through. Now, I agree with what Mr. Chambers says. By your definition, that may be the case. It could change at any moment. But for the years that I've been here, that has been the process.
Maybe that's the issue. It might be time for the process to get right.
And you know what? I agree. And I'm going to tell you what I tell the board members. Any process could change when you have a willing board that wants to change those processes. But when we make those changes, they have to be for the better of the district, not for just one thing that we're doing it for.
You're correct. You're absolutely right. It has to be for, and I'm sure I'm not the only Damon Barone out there having issues. I'm more than certain that I'm not, because HD, Eric Nichols, the district assistant superintendent Elizabeth Veloz-Powell, they're too good at what they do for this to be the first time. I'm convinced that this is not your first rodeo. And unfortunately, I will give you credit. The things that y'all are doing, although they may be inequitable, you're great at it. You're great. You're great at being inequitable. Unfortunately, it's costing my district, it's costing me tax money, it's costing the children of our community, and that's what I have a problem with. Y'all are great at what y'all do. Unfortunately, it's unequitable, and it's not binded by the policies, procedures, vision statement, mission statement, or objectives of the district, and that's what I have a problem at.
So where do we go from here? What happens next?
Do the right thing. Do the right thing. I want the things that I discussed to be investigated. As it stands right now, you can go on the internet and Google my name, and that foolishness comes up because Mr. Nichols, I'm sure, reached out to his friend, and they put my expunction information on the internet. Just another form of embarrassing. Once I had y'all served with the expunction and had Channel 13 served with the expunction to take it down, mysteriously it pops up by some law teacher or law professor, which I'm sure is associated with Eric Nichols, and it's on the internet for forever. So it's been retired. It's still, the foolishness is still going
So
on.
you didn't post any of that up?
No, I'm sure that was under the directive of Mr. Nichols. I would bet my life on it.
So how did Channel 13 get the information about the expunction?
Channel 13, I had to have them served because I asked them as a gentleman to remove it because it was embarrassing and incorrect. They refused to do it. They reached back to the district. The district was like, nah, we don't want to take it down. So then initially, Channel 13 was going to take it down. They reached out to the district. I'm sure somebody told them not to do it. And then they reached out to me and told me that they would update it.
So where did they post it? Yeah, where did they post it?
It's in your exhibits that you used to terminate me. So go and pull that up. And there's a letter allegedly from Craig Ihorn that he sent to Channel 13. So all that is in the exhibits that you all provide. So allegedly, well, not allegedly, according to the documents provided to me by the district, Craig Ihorn, who I don't believe did it, I believe someone probably typed it up on his behalf, sent it to Channel 13 News, and it's exactly the way it was typed up on that paper. That's how they posted it on Channel 13. And that's why I have a problem too, because again, what happened at O'Donnell Middle School, that wasn't sent to Channel 13 News. None of these other incidents were sent to Channel 13 News, so it was strategic and specific to try to embarrass Mr. Barone. I didn't make that up. I have the documentation to show it, and it was provided to me and also used in the litigation when y'all were going through the TEA hearing to try to terminate me.
I'm going to say this about I guess the accusations, for lack of a better word, of this conspiracy to embarrass you, to talk publicly, whether it's through social media or just through conversations. God is not a witness. I have never said a word about you.
You don't have to. You can put it in writing.
Let me finish. I have never written anything about you. I have never instructed anyone, including Mr. Nichols, to do anything regarding Damon Barone. I have never instructed Dr. Powell to do anything other than her job regarding you or any other individual, employee, citizen, etc. I have never instructed Henry Bonaparte or Chief Turner. I know that instructed. I've never talked to them in a casual conversation about any of the things that you're bringing up. I'm not saying that to defend me. I'm saying that's not how I operate.
And I appreciate that,
And
H.E.
Damon, hold on.
If that be true, then they need to be reprimanded.
Let me finish. When you're, and I'd have to go back and look at the dates, so I'm not even going to try to relive the times of the year or anything like that. I'd be misquoted or misstated. But similar to the it's not even a process, but similar to the protocols that have to be put in place for human resources and legal when they get involved in it. Those are things that play itself out. I don't wake up. I don't believe Dr. Veloz-Powell, I don't believe Eric Nichols woke up any morning or to this day woke up trying to figure out how we could harm you. Now, I can't get any other man or woman's mind, but there's no evidence of that to me in terms of how others have been treated.
as far as me telling you couldn't speak to the board, I would have, and I don't remember what I said. I remember the conversation fairly vividly because of Errol and Veronica and Jerry Monroe being in the room.
Veronica wasn't there.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. Yes, sir, she was.
It was Jerry Monroe and
Errol and Veronica. We were sitting in that conference room, and I can tell you where she was sitting.
she wasn't there.
Nevertheless,
It was me, you, Elizabeth Powell, Errol, and Jerry Monroe.
So how many times did you guys meet?
It was that one time.
It was that one time.
Okay.
So Jerry, just as a little background, Jerry, Errol, and another gentleman that I cannot recall his name, came in a month before this. I can remember asking if there was anything that could be done to salvage his opportunity to continue teaching and all that stuff. That's how this kind of shifted in terms of trying to work with him. Anyway, nevertheless, let me say this. I'll just finish by saying this. There's never, right now, has ever been a directive from the board, from the superintendent's office, or from anyone else. When I say directive, I don't mean a conversation, an implication, to do anything to defame you or anyone else, period. You do not believe that, and you don't have to believe that. But
I can show you proof of otherwise. So then how do we correct the individuals that have not followed policies and procedures?
if you can prove in evidence
Okay.
that someone sent Channel 13 your legal documents from this district with an attempt to defame you, I'd like to know about it.
Okay.
If you can prove to me that anyone did anything to you or anyone else, not by your definition of equity, but by a reasonable definition, I'll be glad to handle it. That has never been presented to me.
Okay.
And we have gone back, and I'll just speak I'm not speaking for the board. I'll just tell you, we have been asked by the board on multiple occasions for timelines and.
No, I will speak for the board.
I's dotted and T's crossed and all that.
I asked the question. I need to know what happened, because I believe something had to happen to have, I could feel your frustration in the room. I needed to understand if there, and that was the question that I asked Mr. Chambers. What happened? I need to know every detail of what happened. The board, even a new board coming on, as you presented, want to know what were the timelines. Now, to what you just said, unfortunately, those timelines have been a one-sided conversation. But that one-sided conversation was not a backroom gossip. That one-sided conversation, Mr. Barone, has been, bring me the documentation of everything, walk us through what happened as far as for the HR. Now, that's why I'm bringing back what happened prior to that, to the moment that the board was, the recommendation to the board of a non-renewal is the point in which the board was involved. Prior to that, I don't know. This issue of the conversation of the daughter and what happened, that's brand new information to me.
I've never told anyone that you couldn't see your daughter.
Well, then again, you need to fire Veloz-Powell then, because they have prevented me from seeing my daughter, and it's documented.
Based on what? I mean, why did they not let you? Why did they tell you you couldn't see your daughter?
Based on the allegations. They were trying to act like I was some menace to society. All of a sudden, Mr. Barone is a menace to society.
See, this is the thing I don't understand. You're saying basically, and I'm not saying yay or nay. The only thing that gets me from a board point of view, the only thing that we can ever get involved in is about your employment. Right. The other things about the allegations or whatever happened, whatever those charges and things were.
It was during my employment as well, standing out in front of the school, taking pictures of me, dropping my daughter off. But however you let this gentleman bring not illegal knives on the campus and pick up his son every day, no problem. He ends up getting arrested for evading arrest from the Alief ISD, and y'all still let him on campus. You let Denise on campus as an unregistered volunteer with a felony charge, and she still volunteered, becomes volunteer of the year at Mahaney Elementary, but yet Mr. Barone can't pick up his daughter. Then you got the attendance clerk with a felony theft charge working because she's working at Mahaney because she's friends with Carmilla Nanlaw, but nobody says anything. Mr. Barone gets picked up on a situation I say that I'm innocent of, and all of a sudden I'm terminated. But you let all of these other instances go on, and then I'm put in the news or before any of the facts get out, or before the case is even cleared. Yeah, you'd be upset too. You'd be upset too.
No, that's not I'm not, nor have I ever.
No one's saying that you shouldn't be upset. What I brought back was the fact that those things that happened prior to that, as far as for the board's involvement, it's not like Mr. Chambers came back and said, Ms. Williams, let me tell you all of the things that happened to get us to this point. Typically, wait, 1 second. Typically, anyone who works in the district who has an arrest, immediately that information is
well, it's not even about that, because in the TEA hearing, the thing that they try to stand on is that I was on district property when I was given a directive not to do so. So allegedly, because my case wasn't going the way that they wanted it to go, I was basically recommended for termination because I did not follow the directive not to be on district property. But I was never on district property. If you go back and listen to the court hearings, right, because it's all public records now, it's a TA hearing, the time in which they alleged that I was on campus was over the summer. How can I be violating the directive? One, it's summertime, nobody's on campus. Two, my daughter doesn't even go there anymore because I pulled her out of the school. She didn't even go to the last day of school there because we were so stressed out. I enrolled her in Reese. There was no reason for me to be on Mahaney. Second of all, I got a schematic where all the cameras are on Mahaney. So you allege that I'm on campus. It's mysteriously during the summertime when nobody's there. You got all these cameras. When I asked to see the footage of me allegedly going on campus, there's no footage. And then the principal turns around and says that I was never on campus. I was never inside the campus. I never made any attempt to go inside of the campus. So in essence, y'all recommend my termination for violating the directive that I didn't violate. That's the issue. So if you want to, you can skip over the alleged charge and go back to the TEA hearing. You can request those, Ms. Williams, in your official capacity from TEA, and read over the transcripts, and it clearly states, Bonaparte clearly states that anybody allegedly with a felony charge will be terminated. Well, that didn't happen with the attendance clerk. Anybody with an alleged felony charge would be prevented from picking their daughter up. That didn't happen with Denise Ellison. So you can go back and hear for yourself. Also in the transcripts, it says, Veloz-Powell says that she never contacted my attorney. She also states that the first thing that I did was come in and give her my attorney's information and phone number. That's all a violation of the process.
And that's why I only come back to that, because the board will, when there is an arrest done of an employee, the board still doesn't even hear it right away. That employee has an opportunity to talk to Human Resources. If I'm breaking down of all the years I've been here, it's always been the information is going to go in the system. That system is going to spit out the report. HR department has the report. They're waiting because the employee is the one that's going to provide that information to HR. Employee does not provide that information, then that do become a violation of what the contract says.
So go back to the reason that I was recommended for termination was for not following the directive not to go on Alief property.
I'd have to go back and look, because there's several, I'm not saying you don't know.
Oh, trust me, it's my life that we're talking about. So the recommendation came because I allegedly violated a directive not to go on Alief property.
That was the original recommendation for termination.
Mm-hmm.
Or non-renewal.
Yes.
There's several steps in that.
Yes.
Okay. I'll go back and look.
Yeah, and you, again, in your official capacity, can request the transcript from TEA regarding the hearing.
And I'll be.
And my daughter testified during that time. My wife testified during that time. So they're all sworn in.
So, to be very, very honest, because this is not a legal conversation. This is a conversation because, as a citizen, as a parent, as a patron who have come before the board, You know, my act is, let's find out what it is that people need, want, what can we do to remedy the situation? So that's where I'm at today, of trying to figure out, even once all of this is found out, then what? What is the recommendation, the thought?
Right the wrong, correct the mistake, as any entity would, as any individual would, as you would want it to be done for you. Correct the mistakes.
And those mistakes would be?
My termination, the retaliation against me and my family, the illegal waiver, and my rights as a taxpayer, citizen, parent, Alief volunteer, Alief business partner. At the end of the day, I'm not going anywhere. I love the district. I care about education. I care about children. I care about this community. I'm not going anywhere. And so, in any capacity that I can, and it's not just Alief. I'm partial to Alief because this is my home. This is where I reside and where I've been raised. But I care about education. I care about children. I care about rights and wrongs. The good thing that came about all this thing is that y'all have inspired me to go to law school. I'm going to go to law school behind the foolishness that I've gone through at Alief ISD, because I don't want this to happen to anybody else. I don't want a district to use district tax money as a blank check to fight against someone that hadn't done anything and try to embarrass and bankroll me, financially break me, spiritually break me, emotionally break me. This has affected my entire family, my community. But at the end of the day, so be it. I will die for what I believe in. My mom raised me telling me, son, you have to be willing to die for what you believe in. I will die fighting for what's right. Alief ISD, my family, my children, period. Period.
And most legitimate people have the same perspective. So, I'll just tell you, Damon, I'll be more than happy to go back and revisit some of these things. There's a couple of things. I mean, we can't reopen the whole thing, because a lot of this would be based on memory and whatever's documented.
I got the documents. It's not memory. I got all the documents.
But there's going to be the documents don't cover everything.
Well, here's the thing too. When you begin, I go back to this term of spaghetti code. When you go back to all of those processes, we have a process that has already worked its way all the way to get us to this table here, good, bad, or ugly. We have a process that's already worked through. That is not a process that we can think about using again, to be very, very honest. Now, what I thought I heard in this conversation was that I know that you're not going anywhere. I don't want you to go anywhere. I don't. We don't have enough people who are in Alief who are still here. So, no, by no means I care to see you go anywhere. What I thought I heard you say is that you are going to continue in this district in the capacity of doing what's best for children. Okay.
Or the community as a whole.
Right. I hear you saying that you're going to school and everything. So where does that put you as far as where is the middle place for you and Alief?
The middle place is for y'all to request the audio recordings from the meetings with Camilla Nanlaw, with a principal Camilla Nanlaw, assistant principal Heather Turner, the recordings with Assistant Superintendent Elizabeth Veloz-Powell, and ask for the TEA transcripts from the TEA hearing.
So let me say this, Mr. Chambers, because here's my thing from your legal with your legal hat on. If I go and I request all of those things, then there's a legal process in which I'm gonna have to go through, because there's no other realm in which a district even operates on for doing those things. So you are aware of what it is that you're saying, right?
I'm aware
Okay.
that I'm
And
asking
so
for.
my point is, in a wonderful world, it would be great for the board to go and listen to all of those things and say, whoops, okay. But the truth be told, we can't not do it that way unless there's some legal entity involved in it.
Okay.
Do you not agree?
No.
Okay. You know, so that's why I'm saying, in what capacity will you be working along with the district or against the district?
I won't work against y'all. I will work wholeheartedly with you.
Let's go back to what your words were and what I said. Forgive me, because I stepped out. Doing what's best for children in the community of Alief, because that we do know needs to happen. Okay? So what are your thoughts? Because I know you got thoughts of what it is that you're going to do. You've been thinking about this late at night. Now you done went down that path, and you know, not a path to go backwards in. You're not going backwards, you're going forward. Where's that forward place? And where do you envision us being in that forward place?
I envision the board doing exactly what the mission, vision, and objective statements say, and doing that unanimously and unbiasedly
I wish
to everybody. You asked me a question.
I don't want to. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm so sorry. I had a flash because you said unanimously. You said unanimously.
Right.
You want the board to do that unanimously.
I want them to do I want them to follow the policies and procedures and the mission and the vision unanimously. That doesn't mean that y'all are going to agree on what you see. Mm-hmm. That means that you agree to uphold what it is that y'all have in writing, mm-hmm. and out the best judgment of y'all's ability, do what's right and equitable. That's what I believe.
Of all the vision statement, mission statement, of all the overarching issues, is it equitable? Is it the equity thing
that sticks out the most?
Is that the overarching issue, or is it?
No, the overarching issue is the statements where it says all. And that would include Damon Barone and his family. Not all except Damon Barone and his family. That's the arching issue. That's the crux of the matter.
So to me, that's equity. I mean, to me, it's treating you differently than treating the next guy that comes along.
Absolutely. And similarly situated, what they like to say in EEOC and in the court of law. Similarly situated, people are treating, even worse, people in worse situations are treated drastically differently. And that's inequitable.
Well, I'll say this at the risk of there's no perfect organization, and there's no perfect situation under any circumstances that you can't go back and Monday morning quarterback and find things that you wish you had done and you wish you had done better than that. I don't know that any of those exist with what your situation is. In your mind, they do. I have to go back. If I were in your seat, and I was as angry as you were, as frustrated as you were for the time period you've been upset and frustrated and angry, it would be more, to me, it would be this whole, the equity part of it. It would be, I feel like I've been treated differently. And that's what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to be clear on that part of it from my perspective. And I'll also say this, and I'll probably be quiet. And you can have your opinions of me. And when you sign up to do what I do for a living, it's just go around the territory. What allows me to sleep at night, and what allows me to not get consumed with what did I do or what did I not do, or what did I say or what did I not say, is because I try to measure all of my decisions based on a couple of things. And one is, am I taking everything into consideration? And two, is my judgment being rational and reasonable? 95% of the time I can answer that question pretty affirmatively. There's times where I make mistakes. But under no circumstance do any of us wake up with the intent of taking someone and maiming their reputation, their children, their family, etc. If that were the case, I've been exposed a long time ago, or anyone else for that matter. Mm-hmm. So I am not asking you to believe that. I am just telling you from where I sit and from what, in my relationship with my job and my profession and what I try to do, that serves no one. Serves no one. And to treat people like that, including yourself.
So Damon,
So can I address that? I'm glad that you said that, if you were in my shoes, and likewise, if the shoes were on the other foot, and I was the superintendent, and I had just stated what you said, and I believed it, but then I found out that has not happened, I would be highly upset at the individuals that treated you the way that they did under my watch. I would be very upset and want to fix those mistakes and or take action, for lack of a better word. So if the shoe was on the other foot and my staff was not acting according to policies and procedures, the vision and the mission, and how I personally am, my personal core beliefs, then I would take action amongst my staff. Same way I would do with my children. When my children don't act according to how I run my household, I address that immediately. And so putting the shoe on the other foot, I want you to do those things. That's all that I'm asking. Do those things. Pull those documents. Pull those audio recordings. Watch those videos. Watch those pictures or whatever. If you just pull the transcripts from the TEA hearing, that alone, those are court documents. Those are legal and binding. That tells the whole story right there.
So I'm just curious, in your estimation, because TEA ruled against you, what did they find you? I mean, why do you think they ruled against you? Was it because we made something up, or?
Yeah, y'all absolutely did make something up, and then you then again you use the alleged incident, which again did not take place, and that's why they recommended determination.
Was it in the document? Was it in the transcript?
Yeah, they had they had the illegal screen prints that Bonaparte brought. Like he went on Harris County, his Harris County login, and printed that out and gave it to Elizabeth Powell, which she shouldn't have done. They used that as documentation in the TEA hearing, which they shouldn't have done. That shouldn't have.
Why shouldn't it have been done? And I'm not saying. I'm just saying from a legal perspective. Was there anything in there, to your knowledge, was it like illegal? Or?
Yeah, you can't take information from a case that wasn't open public records and present it in a hearing that's a proceeding that's still going on. It's still active. You didn't ask my side of the story, and even if you did want to get the documents, you still hadn't contacted my attorney. So you wanted to print the documents out. Okay, I'll give you that. But then why did you not contact my attorney to get both sides of the story? Hadn't done that. I had documentation to disprove what was stated in the charging document.
So we're going back to those charges. The only way that the charges become anything of the district is, did you notify Elizabeth that those charges had came about?
They got an email from the state of Texas,
right,
which is a blanket email,
right.
Comes across like everybody else, but the description and alleged details of what's going on, you shouldn't have had that. You don't get those.
Well, we usually, particularly if it's an employee or a student for that matter, who's an adult.
You would get the details so you'll know what's happening.
I mean, we don't get them.
You get the charge. Yeah. That's exactly what I said. You don't get the accused allegation. And again, had you reached out to my attorney or reached out to me, you could have got documents that count. Bottom line is, what happened, the only reason that I got arrested, and I'm going to just be honest with you, is because the police officer himself did not follow policies and procedures. When I called 911 to get that individual removed from my property, they came out, talked to the young lady who alleged she lived at my house, and we were in a dating relationship, which I lived there with my wife and my children. He called the district attorney's office before he came and talked to me. So they automatically picked up the charges based off of what she said. I would have done the same thing. But unfortunately, that's not the policies and procedures. So when he came and knocked on my door to talk to me, I basically was already under arrest. So they came in trying to prove their case. They couldn't do it. And they said, you know what, I'm going to be honest with you. Had the DA not picked up the charges, I wouldn't even be arresting you right now. And I said, I know, because I sat there through the window and watched you call the DA's office while you were talking to her. You didn't follow policies and procedures. Stone face. So not following policies and procedures is the crux of the matter on both situations.
Right, but even for what you just shared, not shared with me, because that is not the portion in which a board member is supposed to even
The
hear.
thing that you
All
are
we supposed
is
to know
not
is,
following the directive.
That's, no.
No, but I'm telling you why I was recommended for termination. What had nothing to do allegedly with my charge. It had everything to do, solely to do with me not following the directive not to go on district property. That's the sole purpose of the recommendation for my termination. So I'm saying that to say we don't even have to worry about the charges because that's a moot issue.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Focus on the issue of me allegedly violating the directive not to go on district property, and it's clearly stated in the TEA transcripts that I had never done that by the individual who alleged that I did, which would be Principal Carmela Landlaw. My daughter says it under oath, and then Bonaparte states that he and Elizabeth Powell gave me permission to drop my daughter off, and then they went and changed all of that up. So it's clearly documented. So solely sticking to the premise of me, Damon Barone, violating the directive not to go on district property was the sole recommendation, was the sole reason why Elizabeth Veloz-Powell made a recommendation to terminate me. Looking at that, and we don't even have to discuss any of the other issues as far as the alleged legal matter.
Now that you mention that, were you told or accused of attempting to intimidate or threaten the principal at Maine?
No. The sole premise of the recommendation was that I violated directive not to go on district property.
I know. Do you recall why you were told not to go on district property?
Because of my charges.
Okay.
And anybody that would had felony charges would be advised that they couldn't do so as well.
But there was never anything about a threat or intimidating?
Nope.
Okay. Well, as Ms. Williams was saying earlier, you're going to continue to...
I'm gonna need some, I'm personally, Damon, I'm gonna tell you honest, I'm gonna need a moment to digest this. And let me, when I say that, it's not like Ian Williams is gonna go and take any kind of action. Because now I am held accountable of the fact that we had this conversation. And, one thing that's going to happen is we got to share the information with the board. The other thing I got to tell you, it's going to be an informal process because it's all informal.
Right now it is. Right now it's going to have to be.
You see what I'm saying? And that's what I want to make very, very clear when we walk out the door. It's an informal process. The reason why we had this is because as a patron, as a parent, as someone who has come before the board and said that we were not listening to you, it was, are we at a moment in time? When are we going to get at a moment at a time that we can sit down and hash out what has happened? Now that we had this conversation, there's pieces in here that I think is worthy of looking at. But I still go back to, even after you do all of those things, I'm not discounting it. I'm not, because as he said, if you do find some things in there that we need to take some corrective action, I don't think there's anything on your part or my part or even the board that would say you wouldn't. Now I'm going to tell you, like I told the board, if the thought is that we run in and we say, okay, you're fired, you also know that legally there's a process for doing things like that. So don't go tell the world that Ian Williams said you're going to go fire some people, because it's not like that. I'm going to just be very, very honest. But what I am saying is I am someone of my word to say, you give me enough here to say, okay, and you also said we need to find out what was the basis, the information that the board received, because the board was not this thing that he's telling me. I don't know anything about the recommendation for termination. Is where we need to go back and look at. That I would like for us to go back and look at. And but before you go, well, I need you to do that. But meanwhile, I'll be talking to the board too, because the board has to be aware of this conversation.
No, I agree.
Totally. And I'm pretty sure, Mr. Barone, this is not just the one way. We've had this conversation. I'm sure the public is going to find out, what it is as well. I'm just asking you give me a little time for us to process. What do we do? What do we do? And it's gonna. I probably shouldn't say this, but I am gonna say this. You know that we've been in the process of trying to get board counsel for the board, And that's been a slow-going process. I would have loved to have had something in place that we could, put them to work right away on what do we do with this information that we receive. But I'm sitting here saying there's so many pieces that I can't walk out the door and say, okay, thank you so very much, we're going to get right on it. But I am going to say, this is not information that you gave me, and it's just going to sit. Because I'm like Mr. Chambers. When I lay down at night, I need to lay down knowing that I have a good conscience. You're in school right now, right? Are you in accelerated courses?
I graduate on May 18th. I'm walking.
With a law degree?
No, I'm going to law school afterwards.
He's getting his,
I'm getting my bachelor's degree.
What you getting?
Master's in nonprofit management.
Okay, so is it accelerated? You're doing it online or you're in classes?
And both.
Okay, so when you get those projects and assignments, you lay down at night, you think you're going to go to sleep, but you dream about.
I can do even better when I deal with this situation here, and I think I'm gonna go lay down and go to sleep.
You're dreaming about how?
Not dreaming about. I'm thinking about Alief ISD and what's going on.
It's apparent this has kind of not consumed you, but it's been a big part of your life.
It is. It is my life. It's my livelihood. It's not just my life. It's my livelihood.
So what do you expect in terms of your livelihood?
I expect that the internet foolishness to come down. As far as Mr. Nichols' friend posting my expunction, whether the district has to step in and write a letter on behalf of them, or Mr. Nichols writes a letter and tell them to take that foolishness down on both those internet sites. And
which internet sites is it on?
Yeah, it pops up. It pops up.
Do you mind if I do that?
Absolutely, please do. I please do. Look at both of the sites. One is dirt something, and something is something. You'll see them. They're there.
Just Damon Barone.
Damon Barone, yes. And then it talks about, one says Texas judges allow criminals to be forgotten, and another one says something else. I can't remember, but yeah, they're both there.
So I'm not I'll tell you honestly, yep, I post stuff on Facebook, but I'm not a troller. I don't troll the internet and stuff for information.
Employers do. I'm just saying, so people.
No, I totally get how that impacts.
No. I'm saying that to say I've not gone out there to search your name up to find out what's out there. But you know, like I do, people will come and say, "Oh, look what so and so has posted," and even with that, I don't have enough time in my day to even go look and see what's posted. So I don't know what's out there. I was told this information was out there, but I was under the impression that you posted it.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So that's why I said all of that to say, yes, I've heard that something about Channel 13, when you talked about it, I heard that was out there, but I thought it was some statement that you sent to Channel 13.
Now, that came from Craig Airhorn, according to the exhibit that was presented by Alief ISD with his, on Alief letterhead, with his, his write-up and everything. So that did not come from Damon Barone.
He wrote it up to go to the website? Or to
Honestly, I'm just be honest. I think Veloz-Powell and Eric Nichols and them wrote it up and sent it. But it's on Alief letterhead from Craig Airhorn. I don't...
And where did it go?
It went to Channel 13. Yeah, and they posted it exactly how it was written up.
And what did Channel 13 do? Did they put it on their website?
They put it on the website. They reported it on the news. They reported it as a story on the news, the television news, and put it on the website, and then refused to take it down once the charges were dismissed. And so I asked them to remove, and how it was embarrassing to my family and not accurate. And they told me no. First they told me yeah, and then they contacted the district, and then they said I talked to my supervisors. I'm not going to be able to take it down. All I can do is update it. And so they updated, and I made another appeal to them.
What did they update it to?
That the charges were dismissed. They kept the same story and just said the charges were dismissed. And I told them that, that still wasn't sufficient. That was still an embarrassment to my family. More importantly, it never happened. They kept it up there, so I filed an expunction and included them and had them served from the state of Texas to remove it, and that's why they took it down.
I keep person the digital footprint that's
yeah,
out
we
there.
can find that. That's easy.
Well, let me just say thank you for this opportunity, honestly, because I sit behind that table, and I'm not so stone faced. I always talk about I'm a PK, so everything bothers me. So was looking and trying to find a way to figure out how we can get to having a conversation that would be outside of the realm of all of the litigation and stuff. You know,
Right.
I'm glad that we're here at this moment.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. This is definitely a step in the right direction. And at the end of the day, this is all that I've been asking for, is to be listened to like anybody else, or how you would want to be listened to if the shoe was in the other foot. Notice I haven't said anything about outcomes. We've just sat here and had a conversation, and I feel much better.
This is where the first
But
one begins.
this
Yeah.
is what should have happened a long time ago. And I pray and I beg that this type of situation doesn't happen to anybody else. And if it does, know that it's as simple as sitting down and having an honest conversation with the constituents and community members, that they deserve to have the opportunity to have their side of the story told or listened to or whatever. So thank you again, Mr. Chambers. Thank you again, Ms. Williams. My only 3 questions I have now is, when should I expect to hear back from you? In what manner? And what should I do if I don't hear back from you by then?
So honestly, I would have to say I need at least a 2-week window for a response. And the
Okay.
reason why I'm saying that is because the board is coming together to have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
But this is not one of the items that's on the agenda.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So it's not something that if I go in and I talk to them about this and you hear about it, again, that's one of the Open Meetings Act. So it can't be done in that manner.
So 2 weeks from today.
Give me at least 2 weeks to say this is what happened, and it might just mean, Mr. Chambers, us coming back to the table having another discussion.
And what manner will you be communicating or reaching out to me?
Let us call you. Can we call you, or and either set up another conversation, or because I'm at the end of the, I can ask all these questions to get this information fairly.
Yeah, you can get your information, because here's where we are.
The board's going to be more complicated in
Yeah.
terms of timing.
You know, because I know everything that he needs, and you talked about, that's internal as files as records. Me working with the board right now, that's just a different kind of a thing, seriously. I can't even get them to come and have a meeting about a board council. And I don't know, I'm trying not to sound so frustrated about that thought.
So a phone conversation, 2 weeks, a phone conversation?
Yeah, just a phone call to say, okay, here's where we are.
Gotcha.
Can we meet next
And
week or
can we
something
meet
like
again?
that?
Gotcha.
Yeah. And help me out, because, like I said, I'm at a campus out there in Spring, and they don't care 2 cents on the dollar about me being no board person coming out here. You know what it's like the end of the school year. Just let me get through that process. But
Just offer me that same courtesy as a parent and taxpayer. That's what I'm
Absolutely.
saying. So,
absolutely.
and if I don't hear back from anyone in 2 weeks, what should I do?
I would say either call Ms. Battle or call Ms. Leal.
Call
Okay.
Camilla or
Carmelita is
Okay.
the board's.
yeah, Carmelita is my person, our person
You'll
to
get
set up,
Okay.
to set up appointments. So, but I'll definitely do that, Mr. Chairman.
No, I mean, we can do that.
Because the first part is for him to do his, because once I share with the board the notes that I have here, and they're gonna act, I know the first thing they're gonna say, what was the determination based upon? And so we wanna have those documents available. And I'm gonna tell you, give me another week. Let me tell you why. Tomorrow we're doing the evaluation in that process. We need time to be able to talk to the board. They need time to,
But I think
to
I
go
deserve
through.
a follow-up, 2 weeks.
No,
is
you'll
stretching
get
it.
your follow-up. You'll get your follow-up. I'm just saying, for me to meet again, because in 2 weeks, Damon, the board will be at the regular board meeting. You understand what I'm saying? So give me that, and then after that board meeting, and when we, have the real discussion about it, then I can tell you where it comes from the board point of view. You understand what I'm saying? The process that I just walked through?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. So, but that does not hinder you from or Jessica or Carmelita. Because if I come up with something else, I'll do it to Jessica and Carmelita and CC you on it. Is that fair enough? Okay. And I got this.
Okay.
I mean, my vision or goal is at some point for you to wake up figuring out how to help. And to have a clean heart and clean mind and clean soul in your own mind about that.
One of the health
I don't expect you to be
areas.
there now.
One of the help
That's what I
areas that I'm sorry, that I meant to say was, equity was not even a part of our, it was not even a word in our mission and vision statement. It's something that we are developing now. So whatever, if equity has been your focus, which I'm pretty sure in the nonprofit courses, there's conversations about that as well, then that's kind of where we're going right now. We're trying to develop an equity policy. We're not there yet.
No, yeah, well, and the word equity, it means different things to different people, but in terms of just fairness.
I heard what he said.
It's just,
Yeah.
you don't have to put you personally, but there doesn't need to be a word or a definition put to it.
Well, it doesn't have to be a policy to make it be what it's supposed to be. That's what it is. It doesn't have to. However, we make it a policy on our end just to make sure that it works. As far as for the conversation that he's been having, I understand what you're saying. People have, certain people get treated a certain way, and you felt like that you haven't been treated that way. And so the push is now for us to look at and fix our processes. Have I misstepped in saying that? Am I pretty much, does it sound like I've been listening to you?
Yeah, I mean, you in the room.
Okay. I did very good to say I didn't have my Starbucks coffee.
We'll talk about your degree real quick.
Sure.
Are you familiar, there's a piece of legislation that was passed in 2015. It was, and the reason I'm going to tell you the number is because that's kind of how it's referred to right now.
Okay.
It's called Senate Bill 1882.
1882.
Have you read that term?
Yeah.
1882 is an opportunity for nonprofits where they do a full-fledged 501c3 nonprofit with a board and, everything that constitutes a nonprofit to come into certain, could be schools, could be private, could be public schools, could be private schools, could be charters, could be any form of school. But a lot of some districts are using the 1882 partnership. And what that requires is it requires the nonprofit to have a board in place. And let's just take, for example, because we've talked about it in our our pre-K task force group. And we've considered it, and we may have to consider it later if the legislature doesn't put money into full-day pre-K. But what it does is the state funds you if we partner with a nonprofit, and the nonprofits are very broad. We could partner with a charter, we could partner with a higher ed partner, we could partner with a city council or a county commissioner's court, or we can, and then the big opening is you could also partner with a nonprofit that you created, you being a district or someone that's in the nonprofit world. There is a lot of space out there right now for good, non-charter, non-university driven, non-city council, non-county commissioner-based nonprofits to help in certain parts of education. Pre-K is one of them, because right now districts only funded half a day for pre-K kids.
Right.
Like I've said 1,000 times, we could get full funding tomorrow for full-day pre-K, but until we build the buildings, we don't have anywhere to put them. But I think there is a big vacuum in like I said, those other types of nonprofits, because people don't want, including our district, they don't want to associate with a charter school, right, wrong, or indifferent, but they don't. They don't want to associate with a municipality or a county commissioner's court, and they darn sure don't want to associate with higher ed. So that leaves this opening for these nonprofits to be formed to come in and provide a governing board for that specific issue. There's an opening. I'm just telling you, if you're interested in the education, in the idea of educating kids, not just lately, but just in general, there's a huge opening. And if there was work to be done by some nonprofits in getting boards put together that are educator-based, or at least have a knowledge of education, specifically if you could find some who work with turnaround schools or who work with early childhood, there is a big void, and we've explored it, not with the board, but we've talked to the board, but we've explored the idea with the pre-K task force, and some members on that task force are from Children at Risk, Collaborative for Children, and a half a dozen nonprofits out there that are represented because that's what they focus on early childhood. And even the Susan Landry, the University of Texas Child Learning Center, they're kind of the gold standard for early childhood. They can't run their own nonprofit, but they sure can provide support to the nonprofit.
Right.
Which I remember that. That's why I looked at the District of Innovation, because I knew some of the other states were doing that, where they had a District of Innovation in place, and then the nonprofits took care of a portion of what that district could not support because they had their own board and everything, but you have the opportunity to work with those students, but you are, you know.
The funding, this is what makes it financially feasible, because nobody can just do it for free. What makes it financially feasible for the district and for the nonprofit, I'm probably getting into the weeds now, but the way, until the law changes, but right now the way kids are funded in a traditional ISD per kid versus the way a kid is funded in a charter school per kid, for Alief it's about a $1,600 delta. So if a kid, so right now, your son, your daughter goes to Alief ISD. I hate to look at it this way, but when they walk in the door, they have a price tag on their head.
They do all of them,
Right?
That's
So,
right.
so in Alief right now, your son and your daughter are worth $5,140. And then if your son and daughter do, like your son is worth more than that because he's in the career program and all that. But if your daughter is just an everyday kid, just going through school, going through life, that's what we're getting for. Charters, on the other hand, if your son or daughter were to withdraw tomorrow, and you took them to Yes or KIPP or Harmony or any other of the charters, they are worth $6,400 a month, almost $1,500 more than they're worth in Alief. So what the 1882 does is it says, okay, Mr. Nonprofit or Miss Nonprofit, if you create this nonprofit and you're partnering with the school district to do early childhood, we're going to fund you as a district and as a nonprofit at the charter school level. So you can get $1,500 more per kid.
Gotcha.
That's how you make
For every child, right?
for every kid.
Okay.
For every child. So so let's just take, for example, if you're doing an 1882 with pre-K, and let's say there's, like we got 3,000 4-year-olds right now, with probably another 2,500 that don't come to us because of the half-day inconvenience that it puts on parents. You would get, if we did it for 20 schools, just do the math, you know, the number of kids times the delta between 1,500. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm only saying that because I didn't know you were in nonprofit. I've seen a lot of sketchy people that are just jumping into the nonprofit world. There's a buck to be made. And it could be a big buck.
Or you can be broke and just working through passion too. I've seen that as
Right,
well.
that has happened a lot with nonprofit as well.
I haven't seen as many people go get the degree to be broke, but I just want to be a better servant of things that I'm passionate about. So.
Well, if it's like any other degree, you'll learn more in the first day of doing it out in the real world than you did in how many years, right? But in all seriousness, I mean, like when we talked to the 1882 folks with our task force, I don't expect people to do it for free. There's got to be a sense of a revenue stream to make it happen.
Right.
I totally get that. But yeah, there is a whole lot of the whole passion deal, and what I'm so worried about right now, is this it's almost become a cottage industry for people just to put together a
Real
charter
quick.
and call themselves a nonprofit, which they are by federal definition.
Yeah, by definition.
And that's why I'm so hesitant to do it here. I'm hoping that the legislature, I hope the school finance bill takes care of it, and we don't have to worry about that. But you also have schools, and like we're 5 years away from this, but there's some schools that are, in order to continue to stay open, they have to, part of the process to stay open
To get those funds.
is to get the funds, but also partner with the charter.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
Get those
and then
funds.
have another governing structure without removing the school board.
Right.
And I just think there's a demand for it. And I know you didn't come here to talk about it, but when you said that, it just, I don't doubt, and I'll say this and we go home. I don't doubt your
Passion.
I don't
Passion.
question it. I don't question your passion for your kids and your family. I don't question your question for yourself, and I don't doubt your passion for the school system. I saw it when I got here. I saw it. So that is not in doubt. No matter what has been done to you, whether it's been done, or you feel it's been done, or what you said about other people, I don't doubt that part of it. I would just like for us to get to a point, at some point, I don't expect it to be tomorrow, I don't expect it to be in 2 weeks, but I'd like for us to get to a point where that passion is used the way it was when I first got here.
And today was a step in the right direction.
If we can take more baby steps or big steps along the way, I'll do everything I can do to help that happen. And like I've said all along, I'm not saying we did make mistakes or we didn't make mistakes. I'm just telling you, I don't wake up with the heart to make a mistake to hurt anybody.
Put in your notes, you're gonna hear from me Wednesday after the board meeting. As I said, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is Monday. I won't have enough time with it. I'm still rolling in my mind.
Board meeting is the 21st.
Yeah. So that Wednesday, whatever that Wednesday after the, I'll have an email draft or something like that, a phone call or something. But more than likely, since it's that day, Carmelita will take care of that. She takes me because I'll be up with them.
Thank y'all again for your time. I appreciate it, HD.